You're watching Tornado Facts with Beanrock124, Season 3, Episode 9, or Episode 49. My name is Nathan, and I love talking about tornadoes. This episode took place 19 years ago, 10 days ago. Pretty recent tornado outbreak within the Chicagoland area, and I have always been waiting to make this outbreak video. And in fact, this day 1 year ago, what could have been a potential bad tornado outbreak that never happened, like a supercell thunderstorm within the same area, happened 1 year ago on this day. So we could have had a repeat of April 20, 2004. And speaking of April 20, 2004, that is the tornado outbreak we are talking about today. A destructive tornado outbreak devastated parts of the upper Midwest of the United States on April 20, 2004. A total of 31 tornadoes formed on eastern Iowa, extending into northern and central Illinois and Indiana. 31 tornadoes, obviously, altogether. An F3 tornado that struck Utica, Illinois, was the only one to cause fatalities. An unusual feature of the outbreak is that the fact that it was largely unexpected, as the Storm Prediction Center only predicted a slight risk of severe weather on the day of the event. Sounds similar to what happened on April 19th, just 11 days ago. The Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma, issued a slight risk of severe weather with, I believe, just 5% risk of tornadoes in the Oklahoma City area, and we all know how that turned out. Here are memorial crosses in Utica after the tornado. 8 of them, obviously, for all 8 fatalities that were there. And I've actually driven through this town. This is the third. So I believe every Tornado Facts with Beanrock124 video that has been talking about the Chicagoland area, I've driven through the path of the most significant tornado. So this one is no surprise here. Here are the tornadoes. None unrated: 18F0, 10F1, 2 F2s, and 1 F3 for a total of 31 tornadoes. Here are the tornadoes. This one we'll talk about more into detail. There were 8 deaths in this Utica, Illinois tornado. There's actually a story on this tornado. I cannot find it. And in fact, I've actually written my own research paper on this for literally no reason. I've written a research paper on the Utica F3 tornado. I will link it in the description. But I'm making a website using Google Sites because it's the easiest thing I can use. I'm making a website and I'm writing news articles for every significant tornado outbreak that has happened in the Chicagoland area that the National Weather Service has covered. So, yeah, that'll be done eventually. Anyways, this multi-vortex tornado touched down just after the F3 dissipated. The closest one to where I live looks like it was the Minooka one. The Joliet one was further east, but this was the closest. Actually, no, it might have been this LaSalle, the Sheridan one. 2 tornadoes that occurred outside the Chicagoland area. This F1 and F0 there. A few in Iowa, and then the rest in Indiana there. But the only fatal tornado of the outbreak touched down in Putnam County, north of Floride, before moving east and striking Granville. Witnesses reported a multi-vortex tornado just prior to its arrival in Granville. The town was bisected by the half-mile wide monster, with 12 buildings destroyed, 45 of which had major damage, and 26 with only minor damage, mainly residential buildings. The Granville State National Bank lost its roof, and Hopkins Elementary School lost the roof over the old gymnasium, with damage in nearly all of the classrooms. Significant damage also occurred to Grainville Drugs, the only drugstore in town. Now, I'm going to pull up a map of where this is, and I'll give a visual representation of... Actually, I'll give a verbal representation because I'm leaving the screen on this. The town of Granville is southwest of LaSalle by a few miles. So about 10 miles southwest of the LaSalle, Peru area by a few miles. So then eventually, it would have crossed I-39, but we will get to that in a minute. In a strange twist of irony, the town had finally recovered from a major fire 4 years earlier that decimated much of the business district. That is not really irony, but okay. In Granville, 5 people were injured by the tornado, including an elderly woman who suffered a heart attack during the tornado and was eventually transported via life flight to a Peoria hospital. Injuries were low due to the 32 minutes of lead time before the tornado struck Granville. The damage in the town was estimated to be at least $8 million, with the school suffering at least $3.5 million. Damage in town was rated high-end F2. The tornado then entered LaSalle County, which would be now the National Weather Service Chicago's forecasting office, like area, whatever. From Putnam County, approximately 3 miles northeast of the town of Standard. And the standard is tornadoes never happen here. So, moving on. F0 damage occurred in a wooded area just southwest of Peru, and as the tornado continued northeast, F2 intensity damage was done to several homes in a subdivision near the intersection of East 250th and 269th Road. 2569th Road. That is a weird name, but okay. Several roofs were blown off homes, along with damage to external walls. Significant tree damage was done as well. Path width was estimated to be 50 yards at this location, so very, very narrow. The tornado then continued northeast, crossing the Illinois River twice as it moved toward the town of Utica, downing a steel high-tension tower on the north bank of the river, immediately west of Highway 251. And for those of you that don't know, that actually, the way it looks on my map right now, it looks like that would have put it in LaSalle, which does not make sense. Or no, across the Illinois River. Actually, no, I see. It missed LaSalle by like a mile, because the Illinois River bends away from it and bends back toward the town. I see what it did. Okay. Anyways, the tornado moved into the southeast side of Utica, where it was F0 intensity. Or southwest side of Utica, sorry. Homes along Washington Street had only minor tree and roof damage. A church steeple was damaged between Johnson and Washington Streets. Roofs and trees were more severely damaged on the south side of Johnson Street. The tornado rapidly increased to F3 intensity on the north side of Johnson Street, where one home had its roof taken off and north walls blown out. A machinery building was completely destroyed on the south side of the canal, and a semi-tractor trailer was blown into the canal. A large grain bin was blown across the canal and flattened. The tornado then moved north of the canal into the heart of town, where several homes were severely damaged. Garages were destroyed and brick buildings collapsed. 8 people died and 7 were rescued from the basement of the turn of the century sandstone miles. What? 8 people died and 7 were rescued from the basement of the turn of the century sandstone milestone tap tavern. That is the weirdest worded sentence I've ever read. Maybe not, because there's been several contenders for that already. The structure collapsed when a vehicle was thrown into it. Jeez. The tornado was approximately 250 yards wide at this point, even though it looked like a wedge. On the east side of the vortex along Mill Street in downtown, businesses suffered damage to facades, roofs, and windows. East of Mill Street, there was damage to trees and minor roof damage. In the northeast section of town, a mobile home was overturned just east of Mill Street. The vortex crossed the railroad tracks and apparently dissipated on a steep bluff on the northeast side of town. Well, apparently it dissipated because the path ended. At the top of the hill, there were some trees and limbs down, and some debris from town was deposited. On June 2nd, 2004, the village clerk's son was stillborn. The clerk, Angela Brown, had worked 16-hour days following the tornado The clerk, Angela Brown, had worked 16-hour days following the tornado hit until his birth. Following the tornado, what? And she stated that doctors attributed his death in part to stress as a result of this work. In a memorial service on April 19, 2005, the city of Utica recognized him as the 9th victim, even though his death is not counted in the NCDC total. So that's why there looked like to be more than 8 crosses here, but okay. But with that, that is the end of Season 3, Episode 9 of Tornado Facts with Beanrock124, this one being about the tornado outbreak of April 20, 2004. And with that, goodbye.